So when you're doing special effects and you're doing those blood gore effects, what was the first thought or opportunity that presented itself to you? I want to get into pyrotech, be a pyrotech, and get into all these another level of effects.
Well, like I said, I was always fascinated with the bullet hits since the Wild Bunch. Wild Bunch is my favorite film of all time, and it's just a squib fest. And so that I just wanted to do that. I wanted to know how it was done and everything. And then when Dawn of the Dead came out, that was another big squib fest where they were just, blowing up stuff left and right. And then when I met Gary Zeller and he showed me how that was actually done, that made me want to do it. When the Majorettes came out, I had done a bunch of research. I met an effects guy named Tom Gleason. He was working on a movie for George Demick that was called Virus. And I knew Mike Terzic, and Mike invited me out to the set to meet George. And he was doing bullet hits. He was making them out of, he was getting macaroni, those hollow little macaronis, and he was filling them with gunpowder and putting a solar igniter in there and putting them on people and blowing holes and stuff. And I thought, this is amazing. The little rocket detonators he was using. And so I just went out and bought all that stuff, and I started playing around with it. And when the Majorettes came around, I started using this really fragile plastic tubing instead of macaroni. And
Macaroni noodles, to be very...
Those little macaronis that are hollow, they're straight. They're not the curved ones. And they explode really good. So I don't know if I should be talking about this. But so I was making them out of this plastic, and I was making these things, and when the Majorettes came around, I told Bill that I could do bullet hits, and so I was doing all the bullet hits on Majorettes, and he said, well, can you blow up a van? And I said, well, yeah, I think I had this, I was just constantly getting books on special effects, and there was a book written back in the 60s on doing physical effects, and they had a whole chapter in, doing bullet hits and explosions and all this stuff and how to storage. And it was really detailed. It was like for industry professionals. Well, I found it at a used bookstore, and I read that, and that's what I used to actually do this stuff, because they told you step by step how to do this stuff. So I was doing that stuff, and then I blew up the van. It went good, and then we blew up a car, and then a guy was on a motorcycle, and I figured out how to do self-detonating squibs where the thing ran down to him, and the guy who was on a motorcycle could detonate it himself and blow a hole in his back, and he crashed into this side of this big house trailer, and then we had a big explosion go off, and then I blew the trailer up, and it was on private property, and it was down by next to the Fox Chapel Yacht Club, because the guy that owned the Fox Chapel Yacht Club was the producer. And he says, oh, you could do this. I said, well, told John Russo, well, you got to contact the fire company and tell them what we're doing. We didn't. He didn't give a shit. It's on private property. Well, when this thing went off, it's right on the Allegheny River. It was like an 80-foot fireball. And they saw it from Sharpsburg, Fox Chapel, East Liberty, all these, every fire truck from all those places showed up, and they were pissed. And Bill Heinzman goes, cut the wires, take the detonator, get in your car, and go home. I'll deal with this. Well, the next day, 2 federal agents, FBI agents, show up at my house, put me in cuffs, take me down to the federal building, and say, you're telling me I'm a terrorist. That what I did was a terroristic activity, that I need to have a federal explosive license to do this. I mean, they were playing good bad cop, scaring shit. I was 20 years old. I didn't know that. They told me to blow it up. I just blew it up. And so they interrogated me for like an hour. And then I guess they kind of got the idea that I knew what I was talking about. And the fire, I guess the one fire marshal said that was the safest explosion he ever saw. He goes, it was an 8-foot fireball, but I didn't even scorch the trees. They were right around it. I said, well, I sprayed them all down with fire retardant. They go, you did? I said, yeah. I said, how do you know all this stuff? Well, I told them about the book and stuff, and they go, that book's out of print. Don't tell anybody about it. So they told me that I needed to write a letter to Washington, D.C. and get an exemption for the stuff that I was building, explain, detail everything I was going to do, everything I wanted to do, how I did it, and I could get an exemption. And I did. They sent me a paper that said I was cleared by federal government to do this stuff, and they gave me the paper to apply for my federal license, and I got the license. So that was in 1985, and still have it.
Is it really $100 a month? Is that the?
Yeah, it's 100. No, that's not a month. Every 4 months or something, they come and they have to check. You have to have storage. So they come here and they check everything, and I have to paperwork's all, But I haven't used it for the last few years. I've been no inventory, so, and I didn't like to keep inventory. So I would, after the movie, I would just detonate everything, and keep it.